Hey everybody, I'm Rick Burke. I'm a landscape photographer based here on Maine's Mid-Coast, and I wanted to tell you guys about this new filter I've been using. If you're a landscape photographer like me or a filmmaker doing video, chances are that variable neutral density filters are already a key part of your toolkit. I recently had the chance to try the KASE 1.5 to 8 stop variable ND filter and CPL to play with it and see what I thought of it. I traditionally have avoided variable neutral density filters mainly because they tend to have an image quality problem, especially at the extreme densities that they claim to be able to do. And then also, a lot of them don't have any indication exactly what density you're at, so it's tough to figure out your exposure if you're beyond the 30 seconds that your camera can calculate by itself, and then if you're looking at the filter and there's no markings on it, you're guessing. So I wanted to show you guys this KASE variable ND filter. It is a 1.5 to 8 stops neutral density filter, and you can see that it works really nicely going from dark to light. It's got this cool little nub on it, so it makes it real easy to change the density without having to reach out in front and turn the filter. Makes it real easy. And also, I don't know if you can see this, there are markings right here on the front of the on the ring of the filter, so that you can see exactly what density you're dialed into from 1.5 up to 8. So it already gives you a little bit more usefulness than some other variable neutral density filters you might see out there. So living on the coast, I used ND filters all the time to help me get exactly the right shutter speed for water. Ocean waves are great to photograph, and you can photograph them so many different ways. But a lot of times I'm forced to use a neutral density filter to get the slower shutter speeds that I might like to get, some flow or some, little bit of motion blur and a splash or something like that. So I've been putting this filter through its paces for the last couple of months, and I wanted to offer you my thoughts. The first thing that I thought about with this once I put it on my camera is how convenient it is. One of the first times I used this, I decided to go down and do some ICM or intentional camera movement down at the beach, and this was at sunrise, and just the ability to change the density as the light came up so that I could continue to maintain my slower shutter speeds was really great. I didn't have to stop in the middle as the light was changing and put on a different neutral density filter each time the light changed. This one was just a matter of rotating the handle and getting to the density that I wanted. KASE rates this from 1.5 to 8 stops, like I said. And for the most part, it covers most of those stops pretty well. I find it goes really well up through about 7 stops. When you get it all the way to 8, you start to get a little bit of that funky polarization pattern that you'll see in some variable neutral density filters. But at 5.5 stops, this provides a great range before you even get up to that 8 stop range. And even at 8 stops, it's probably usable. I prefer not to go that far and get those funky patterns, but if you stop just short of 8, you'll still be able to use the filter on it and use that density to make the image that you want to make. Build wise, this is really cool. It feels really hefty. It doesn't feel light or cheap like some of the other filters that are out there. It feels pretty hefty. I'm not going to make a guess as to what these rings are made out of, but I am going to guess that it's not aluminum. It feels heavier than that. The glass is beautiful. It is nice and clear and really sharp. There's no distortions to it. There's no color cast, which is really important because it can be a pain to edit out all those magenta or bluish color casts that you might get from some of these filters. Image quality is tack sharp. I've had no issues with the sharpness, no matter what density I'm at with it. And it's allowed me to get a lot of different images. I'll show you a few now. This first image is a shot I took that first morning on Popham Beach as the sun was rising. At this point I didn't need too much density, but I still wanted a little bit to get the shutter speed where I wanted to. So I stopped it down to, I set it down to about 2 stops of density just to start with. And then as the sun came up, I added more and more density as needed to maintain the shutter speeds that I was finding worked best for the ICM that I was doing. So this is sunrise on Popham Beach here in Maine. Here's another image from that same morning. You can see the waves coming in as I did some intentional camera movements and panning from left to right or right to left. I'm not sure which way I went on this one, but you can see it gives you kind of a really abstract, impressionistic view of the ocean waves and the sunrise. So I was really happy to be able to capture that with this filter. Next is some more ICM. This was taken in Acadia National Park along Jessup Path, where there's a ton of birch trees. This was, a couple of weeks ago, right in the spring. So I wanted to capture an ICM version of this. I had done it in the fall, and I have some beautiful reds and oranges. But now I wanted to try it in the spring and get some greens. Next step is to get up there in the winter and get it with some snow and do a whole series on this. So here's another shot from Acadia National Park in Jessup Path. This is another ICM shot. In this shot, what I did was, instead of zooming the lens in, I held the zoom ring on the camera and twisted the camera to create this kind of spiral zoom that's going on. And again, I did use this filter probably about 4 stops to get the shutter speed that I wanted here. You can see it is a pretty bright sunny day, and the sun is coming through the trees pretty well, so a filter was definitely necessary for that. Another one, this was taken at Schoodic Point in Acadia National Park, and again, this was just a shot where I was panning with the waves as they were coming in and hitting the rocks, and I just really liked the kind of waviness in this image and the transitions from blue to turquoise to white and back to deeper blue again. Thought it worked really well, and this filter, gave me the ability to do that without having to worry about changing filters a lot. I was able to play with different shutter speeds just by turning the filter to the density that I wanted to have, rather than having to change from a 3-stop to a 6-stop and then maybe to a 10-stop, depending on what the lighting was. So this filter has been really convenient for me for that. Here's an image also at Acadia National Park, taken about 2 weeks ago. This one, again, I didn't want a ton of stopping power, but this filter at about 4 or 5 stops gave me the ability to slow down the shutter speed, just to let the water kind of smooth out a little bit, and give me a little bit of smoother look in the white water that kind of comes up around the rocks there. So smooth out the ocean a little bit as well. So really nice image, and again, the filter worked perfectly for it. And the last one I'll show you is, this was from a state park near me, Reed State Park, and this is just a matter where I prefer to shoot water running around the rocks anywhere from 1 second up to like a quarter of a second. That's kind of my sweet spot for things, depending on how much motion blur in the water I want. In this case, I wanted a little bit, and you can see how I have some motion blur in this image around the water, and that's just what I wanted. I didn't need too much stopping power, so I put this filter on, turned it to about 4 stops, and it did a great job keeping my shutter speed where I wanted it to be, to get a little bit of blurriness in the water, a little bit of motion blur there. So this filter is going to stay in my bag. I really enjoy working with it. It makes life easy when I don't need those extreme densities, and it fits almost all my lenses. The only one it doesn't fit is my Sony 12-24 because of the bulbous front element. In that case, I then use the KASE clip-in filters for my Sony A7R5s. The clip-in filters just clip in over the sensor, and those are phenomenal also. Not quite as convenient as this, because I have to take the lens off to change them out, but if I'm looking to do something with neutral density and use my 12-24 millimeter lens, those filters are perfect, because they don't go over the front of the lens, they go in back of the lens inside the camera. So KASE has made me a believer.